It says this, for this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments, and His commandments are not burdensome. And this is where we really want to go, is right here. For everyone who has been born of God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world except the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God? This word overcome is the word of the sermon. It's overcome. And I think sometimes we can kind of feel like this guy in this picture here. I don't know, have you ever been in the surf or in the ocean, swimming along, and then that wave was a little too big, and it grabbed you and just threw you to the bottom, and it knocked the air out of you, scraped you along the side. You didn't know which way is up, but you're just trying to get back up to the top to get air, right? And sometimes life feels like that, doesn't it? Sometimes life feels like that you're just trying to crawl to the top of so you can just get another breath of air. Sometimes life feels like that. And my example for that is actually one of our presidents. Now, if I said to you, picture in your mind who has been our best president, who would pop up into your mind? Lincoln? Like it's not this guy? It's not Jimmy Carter? No? like that's, did anyone? No one? No, not Jimmy Carter? No, right? He's actually regarded, his approval rating was below Nixon's. Like that beforehand. Now, he walked into a tough situation. We can't all just pile on Carter here. But people regarded a lot of the stuff of his presidency, it didn't go very well, did it? We all know the big stuff, like the Iranian hostage crisis, because that was, part of the election stuff. And, and Reagan came along and kind of had the whole Reagan era after Carter. And it didn't go well, right? I mean, with his approval rating so low, this is what the election map would have looked like if we did election maps today. This is what it would have looked like under Carter, right? Yeah, that's the Reds Reagan, right? That's called a landslide. That's what that's called. And that's, we can say that Carter kind of was overcome, right? Nothing what really was working right for him. Now, here's what you got to understand. This was 1980. I was born in 82, all right? I point that out for reasons. And so I was born in 82. So I didn't personally witness this stuff, but I've had people that told me, is that that Carter, after he was elected out, almost was acting like he was trying to justify himself. He was trying to get in the mess and mess with what Reagan was doing, and still trying to create international policy and things like that. He was trying to justify him, and then he kind of just went away all of a sudden. Right? That he was trying to do all this stuff. It's almost like he's trying to justify himself to overcome the world, right? And that kind of goes with that message, is that sometimes it seems like the world is just trying to drag us down, and it's like, oh, we need to fight to overcome it. So the people that John is writing to in 1 John, they're the Christians, and they are struggling. They've got two people that they're kind of struggling against. One, there's people that are outside the church, and there's people that are inside of the church. Now, we knew Rome is the dominant thing around there, and that Rome was beginning to ramp up with lots of persecution of Christians. We're all aware of this. I believe, I didn't really look at this up, I'm just going off of knowledge here. I believe that Domitian was Caesar at that time. Now, what I do know is, do you know what Domitian's nickname was? It was the Beast. Ooh, right? So whenever you are reading Revelation and you hear the Beast mentioned, and that was just the Caesar's well-known nickname, perhaps you should be adding in that Caesar title too to that. All right? So that's a lot of times we divorce ourselves by 2,000 years from Revelation, read all the apocalyptic language and go, it's scary. Revelation's meant to be comforting to the Christians. Okay? It's meant to be comforting. The same guy who's writing about love and Jesus bringing peace is the same guy who wrote Revelation. And if those two messages don't jive with your reading of Revelation, read it again. I know I said that last week, but it's important to say it again. So read it again. It's meant to bring peace. So this beast, this Domitian, they're starting to really ramp up inside of it. But even inside the churches have also become unsafe. Because there's this group of people that we now call the Gnostics that were telling the people inside the churches, they were like, hey, your faith isn't good enough. You haven't had these proper spiritual experiences. You don't have this hidden knowledge yet. You're not a good enough Christian. Like that's their language that they were using in that time. And John is railing back against that, going, listen, guys, that's not loving. That's not love. That's not love. You know who love is, and it looks like God. And God gave his life up for you, not to judge it, but to give his life for it. And that's the whole point of John, is that it's God is this love. And even today, I think we struggle. That we look around and sometimes we feel like this guy here in this picture. That we're being overcome, right? That we feel like we're being overcome by the world around us. And there's a lot that we can feel overcome about. We have all the international scary things. Like ISIL in Syria. And all the scary things out there. But we also have just domestic worries too. We have stuff that we're worried about inside the church as well. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get arranged. I don't know if I can find my notes. All right. I had a list. We oftentimes get ridiculed for our beliefs. I think that can happen to us quite a bit. Why are you going to church on Sunday? And I think we can even feel like we're inadequate even in the church, too. Right? Sometimes you just can't deliver a decent sermon like that. Or you're sitting maybe across from Susie Super Christian, right? Who's always like doing the Instagram photos of her Bible with her Bible open and just always talking about like sunsets and praising Jesus and all those things, right? And you're just like, I don't never feel like her. Like I don't know, I have some doubts and things like that. It's maybe my life would be better if I was more like Susie Super Christian. And these fears of failures like that can really bring us down. They make us feel like we've got a lot to overcome. And this is an idea that I preach about a lot. If you are Susie Super Christian, that's fine. Don't rub it in people's faces. All right? But that's fine. But if you aren't Susie Super Christian, which happens to be a lot of us probably, that's fine. Like Jesus died on the cross and rose again so you wouldn't have to fear. Okay? So you may struggle with your faith. Keep on working at it. Keep on working at it. But if you're not Susie Super Christian, Jesus died for you. Okay? He died for Susie Super Christian too. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Good. I just want to make sure that we feel, because sometimes we can get down on ourselves because we watch stuff on TV or we watch stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm not nothing like that. And it may make us want to feel like we need to fake it. Don't fake it. Live in the real, all right? But it feels like we have to overcome it, because sometimes, even in our Christian faith, it feels like we're drowning. It feels like we're drowning. It feels like we got to try to work hard to get to the top. I mean, another thing is like the brilliance of marketing and marketers. Because they all tell us the same stuff, that you're not good enough, right? No one has ever bought wrinkle cream thinking that it's going to solve all the problems, right? No one has done that. I don't have the newest phone in my pocket right now because I don't have like a small hole in my heart when the newest thing doesn't come out, you know? All this brilliant marketing. It's the Daytona 500 today, which is the best sporting event ever. No one agrees, okay. But that, just like the Super Bowl, is filled with ads about, do you not feel complete? Do you feel like you need to overcome something? Buy this new AMOLED HDR 4K curved screen TV with the sound bar under it that sounds like speakers are all around you. And that heart in your hole, and that hole in your heart will be full, right? Like this marketer's in that sense of where it's like, I can just buy my way to overcoming that. And it just leaves us there, and it feels like we cannot ever get out of that hole, and it feels like the world is just overcoming us. And that's I think it's the sense that John is talking about when he says, for everyone who's been born of God overcomes the world. He's writing encouraging messages here. Everyone that's born of God. Who is born of God? Who are the sons and daughters of God? We are his sons and daughters of God, right? We are his princes and princesses in his kingdom. That is us, and he says, they have overcome the world. And how do we know this victory of overcoming the world? It's our faith. It's our faith. It's that thing that we know that is the Spirit indwelling into us all. And then from our gospel lesson, Jesus even says, he goes, I've said all this to you that you might have peace. I've said all this so you might have peace. That in the world you have tribulation. All right, let's be honest. Let's have real talk for a second. Who uses the word tribulation anymore? Anybody? I know some of you use it with your grandkids, right? It's like, if you'll touch that, there's going to be tribulation. Right? No, you're like, no, I don't talk to my grandkids like that. My grandkids are filled with honey and sugar and all things nice, right? But that's such a weird world. Another weird word. In this world, you're going to have troubles. You're going to have things that are feeling like they overcome you. We should bring tribulation back, though, right? It's like I got a wreck on the freeway, right? My day was filled with tribulation. My day was filled. That's such a ridiculous. I was fired. My day is filled with tribulation. But we're going to have days that are filled with trouble, filled with things that I need to overcome. But then Jesus says, take heart. I've overcome the world. I've said all of that stuff to bring you peace. And I've overcome the world. How did Jesus overcome the world? And this is where it gets fascinating. How did Jesus get to overcome the world? He didn't come in as this big, huge thing, did he? No, he came in born in the humbleness next to sheep stuff, right? He was born into a woman who said she was a virgin. We all know how that works, right? I believe she was a virgin. I'm saying that other people didn't believe it. Yeah, he came in looking like one of us, looking like the creation. This is how he overcame the world. He came in and listening to his disciples constantly complaining and getting it wrong. He came in listening, doing amazing miracles like feeding the 5,000 and listening to everyone complain about it. You know, the people he came to save ended up not trusting him and actually rejecting him and turning him over to the world to be overcome by it. The Pontius Pilate, didn't want anything to do with him. The religious leaders wanted to put him onto a cross, and the soldiers spit and mocked him and put a crown of thorns on him, and they hoisted it up to leave him next to mere criminals to bleed and die. The world overcame Jesus, and that is how Jesus overcame the world. He could have become bigger than any of that. And yet he didn't. He overcame the world. He fell to it all. And we see the true power of God when God rose from the dead, overcoming the world, overcoming the death and the power of the grave, to prove that the world has no worthwhileness, has no value. And he did that for you out of love. So who cares? Like, why do we still trust this Jesus to overcome the world for us? And what does it mean for us? Well, here's what it means. It has to do with this picture. Is that sometimes the world feels like this. It feels like we're drowning in the midst of waters, and that we're working so hard to try to get up to the top, trying to grasp at every little molecule of water so that we can just have one last breath again, right? And sometimes the world just feels like it's encroached in us, and we're trying our best, beating our palms against the water, trying to get another breath, trying our best. Now, some of you may have been lifeguards when you were younger, right? When you are trying to save someone from drowning, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to swim up to them, but do you swim up to the front side of them? No, you're to the back side of them, right? Because when you're drowning, you become incredibly selfish, right? And you will take someone down with you, right? Like that's just what we do. And when our sole focus is to overcome the world, we begin to use the powers of the world, which is selfishness, deceit, lies, and dissension. Those are the fruits of the world. And we fall, and as we're fighting to overcome it, we use all those means. So it doesn't matter who we step on, who we crush, we're trying to just grab that another selfish breath for ourselves. But the way we overcome the world is just submitting to it, like Jesus did. Submitting to the waters so that we may die in the waters. Let the waters overtake us, because the waters, the fruits of the water, is peace, patience, kindness, mercy, gentleness, and self-control. You see, the waters are the place where our selfishness dies. The waters is the place where our deceitful hearts perish. The waters are where our empty promises are lost. And the waters are the place where we take on the cross of Jesus. And for those of you who are going, what is all this water talk that he's done? I feel like it's gotten serious. I'm talking about baptism. I'm talking about baptism because classic church language has been that we die in the waters of the baptism only to arise with Jesus, right? That we also take on the cross of Jesus. See, all too often we are so immensely interested in overcoming the waters of the world around us that we do anything we can to overcome them, and we may hurt those around us. And Jesus says, when someone slaps you, turn the other cheek. When a Roman soldier comes up to you and says, walk a mile holding all my stuff, which was a legal thing they could do. Can you imagine if we were occupied by a different foreign company and someone said, hey, let this soldier live with you for a year? We'd be like, well, I'm not into that. Jesus says, let him live there too. Like if something happens to you where everything in your being is like, I just don't like this, I don't want to make this, Jesus says, go ahead and make two of them. Go ahead and do double what they asked you to do. Go ahead and submit in the waters and die to your own selfish pride, that you may serve the creation, that God may be glorified through that. Take up your cross. The same Jesus that said, rather than sitting at the head of the table, sit at the end of it. Someone may bring you up to the front, but go to the end of it. Because in our desires to overcome the waters, when we sit and reside and we're like, this is where I am, then we can look around and go, who can I love and serve? Who can I love and serve? Who am I not just interested in overcoming today? Who can I serve? Who can I love around me? Because we see that's what Jesus did. And he rises us up, making us, and in our baptism, he rises us up out of the water so that we might have life in his resurrection. So you've overcome the world by, in your baptisms, dying in your baptism, you have taken on the cross of Jesus and he rises you to a new life. You've been wiped clean and it's all good. So listen, I hear what you're saying. You're like, this sounds great, but it sounds hard and difficult. And I know sometimes you're going to be just like me and you're going to say selfish things, you're going to do selfish things, and you're going to hurt people sometimes. But Jesus works to save you and the person that you hurt as well. Even in your own sinfulness, he is there for you. So let's talk about Jimmy Carter for a little bit. Jimmy Carter disappeared off the map, didn't he, there for a while? But what was he doing? Like, he started serving. Like, he's teaching Sunday school. He's like, that's just Jimmy Carter. That's what he does. Like, he just teaches Sunday school. But I think he was trying to overcome the world. And I think he finally, something hit him where he's just like, I'm done. I'm done trying to become a big deal. And he went in and he started helping, right? He got on the ground floor with Habitat for Humanity, which is still regarded as one of the best ways to provide homes for those in need. He's one of the lead guys on the malaria effort for mosquitoes in Africa, saving thousands of lives, and he doesn't do it for any notoriety. He just does it now because I think he's overcome the world. And I think if you talk to him, I think he would say what we've been saying the whole time. Because I know he's a good Christian guy. Because he's from Georgia, right? I'm from Georgia, for those who don't know. But I think he would say, like, Jesus has overcome the world. So I'm just going to help. I'm going to help those around me. So in the waters that we try to overcome, Jesus has overcome all those. So you can overcome the waters just by his love. You can overcome the waters of your neighborhood, and you can love the people in your neighborhood. You don't have to fix the problems. You can just love them. Just go over to your neighbor and say, let's have a good time. Maybe not in that way. I don't know where you're going. But you can love your neighbors. Like, you can love your workplaces. You don't have to overcome it. You can just, you can rest in the waters of your baptism, and you can love those around you. Because Jesus has all the problems worked out. If you can't tell, the Christian way of what I'm saying all this is Jesus has overcome the world to free us to be his hands and feet in this creation. That we can love it everywhere we go. And you know what? That's really, really good news. So we take up our cross daily. We die in the waters of our baptism to be risen again by the one who overcomes all the world. And that's good news. Serve your neighbors this week. Let's pray.